Right, welcome to Bragging Rights, episode... Craig?
3?
5.
Did not sound convincing at all then, did you?
That's because it wasn't.
Wow.
It's because we did the first 2 on audio, that's
I
right.
know.
Yeah.
Shut up then. A little bit different today. For people that are watching, you'll have already seen. For anyone that follows us on Instagram, you will already know. We've got a 5th member. We've got Paul Cooke with us today. Former Wakefield player.
Doncaster, Featherstone.
Yeah, I didn't want to say
and then Hull.
which club first, because you go, Jimmy Favours.
Former player of both teams in the city.
Yes.
Former player of 5 different clubs.
There we go.
I'd have let you go Hull first and Rovers second, just because chronologically that's when he played.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, cool. What we got today? Are we sponsored by Walton and Co Accountants? And obviously here at Tribal, the home of the pod. And I'm going to hand Dean the microphone today because this one doesn't work.
It's just holding it to look good.
Just pretending. There you go. I'll let you tell us what we're doing next.
Rovers first, because
Why's that?
you're above us in the league, and you won. So
That's a good point.
that's how it rolls.
Yeah. So, obviously, you won there. I'm going to out you straight away.
No.
Decided to go off on your jollies for a little bit, didn't you? But yeah,
I did also get my flight time wrong. And I was like, I'll be in the air while the game's on. I actually landed and was in Dublin Airport, and I was arguing with a waitress to change they were showing some Gaelic football, and I was like, come on, no one's watching it, put the rugby on. And she just looked at me blank. She was like, the game's tomorrow. I was like, no, not the Six Nations. That's not what I'm talking about. Anyways, long story short, I sort of watched it on my phone with really bad signal.
fair enough, yeah.
I can't believe you weren't there. Even I was at the game. I took my daughter and a friend to the game on Friday, so I was actually stood in the crowd at the game as well. So I think I'm even better supporter than you now.
I know, but
well outed.
if we swap seats, though, I'm not as impressive in that seat as the guest.
It's one game in God knows how long, and you're getting
I know.
outed about it.
What we'll do is we'll bring Cookie on as a regular and Josh can be the special guest occasionally.
Can Josh be the producer so it's less work for
That's
me?
actually a good point.
No, I can talk about my career. 1 fatal knee injury, 1 player's player,
1 fatal shoulder injury.
1 Division 2 Yorkshire League under-16s.
Here's a question for you. How many times you passed to your winger?
I've never had decent wingers, and that was the problem.
For the record there, Jimmy was Josh's winger for a little bit. So
Right.
You were
was
both
mine
as
as
bad
well.
as each other.
I passed you at least twice and you knocked them both on.
Oh, right, whatever. Tell us about Rovers. How'd it go?
Yeah, it was a bit of a struggle, to be honest. I think Wakefield came with a bit of a plan, same as Castleford did last week, and it felt like an arm wrestle. It felt like 2 very evenly matched teams, I felt. We got that early try, and I was hoping we'd kick on from that, because it was, as I've just said, it was a bit of an arm wrestle early doors, and we got the early try with the bit of luck where it bounced off the crossbar straight to Tom Davis, and he dived over, but we just didn't seem to crack on, and Wakefield muscled up in defence, and we did throw a lot at them, but I think if we'd have had 2 half-backs on the day, rather than a centre playing in the halves, which is no offence to Hiku, but I think we'd have been much more comfortable winners if we'd have had 2 half-backs.
I think all that's fair. I do think it was a tough game. I don't think Wakey are going to roll over this year. I think both the opening games they've played, they've shown a lot of heart. They've signed and recruited really well. It's not an excuse for us. We have not hit, the strides that we expected at the start of the year, but we didn't also last year. So I'm not too worried. I did note a point, though, on the first try. I know there's a bit of luck when a ball comes off the crossbar. It can bounce anywhere. It reminded me a bit of what we spoke about last week with us trying Catalan for Jordan Lynn. When we said about that willingness, that commitment, the ball come back off the bar, Davis was there. He was watching, he come in from the wing, and he got that ball and he went in and scored.
There was a whole host of players underneath that, and he's the only one who reacted and wanted to get the ball.
And there's luck involved in that, but it shows that desire and it shows the player wants something.
There's a tactic in it, isn't there? Because there's lots of clubs now that employ a kick from a sideline where you kick to the post rather than to the wing. Because the post gets taken into account, both posts, when you're trying to compete for it. So fullbacks have got to be running across the line. They've also got to play against the post as well as defenders. So there's an element of where you will try and land the ball in and around the post and the crossbar to see what happens with defenders and whether somebody runs into the post, because they've got their eyes on the football. So I think Penrith use it a hell of a lot in the NRL.
So that's quite interesting, though, actually, because I suppose if it doesn't come off the first time, not that you're always going to hit the post, but you're going to add that confusion in the vision. If it's a tactic that you employ time and time again, it does get a bit of panic in that middle.
And law of averages says eventually somebody's going to hit the crossbar or hit the post, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is why lots aim for the post pads when they dribble the kick from.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. I think Sneedy used to do it for us quite a bit. He used to aim for the post pads, and I think Mint
Still
got
does.
a couple of decent tries off of the back of it. But I've never seen anyone, whether he aimed for the crossbar or not, I've never seen anyone hit the crossbar.
I don't think he did. I think it's like Paul just said, you put it in that area, and if it comes off, it comes off. But I think the main aim of that is to create that confusion, to create that panic in the fullback and thinking, well, I'm not in position, but where do I go? Where's the ball going to land? And thankfully for us, it landed in Tommy's hands and he dived over, so can't really complain.
I think when his performance overall on the night, not jumping to the end, but he was like one of our best players.
Oh, yeah,
And he did
absolutely.
get man of the match on Sky. He was fantastic. It's just that it goes to show that he was the one that got that try because he executed well. Yeah, the ball came flying off. It could have gone anywhere, but it was almost like a sign of the times to come that he was going to have a good night. Sometimes they don't come off to thee. Sometimes you knock it on. Sometimes you don't get the ball. The defending team do. And I thought, yeah, that sort of encapsulated the way he ended up playing the rest of the night. That got him going, and then he was pretty much our best player.
Yeah,
all
I
over
read
the
his
best.
interview, and he did speak about the try, and he said he'd visioned it in his head when he saw the kick going over, and he sort of imaged it, if you will, visioned it, that it was going to bounce off and bounce into his arms, and then he was in the right position.
Well, I want to know the lottery numbers off him then.
You and everybody else, I
I want to know the
think.
lottery numbers off that man.
That's a perfect post.
I'd rather him run for 200 metres a game than get there, which is what he did do that night.
Yeah.
He run for a lot of metres. He run out the backfield. It was a tough game. It probably be him and Ollie Pratt, wasn't it? Who was the best two players on the field?
I thought
Ollie Pratt was outstanding. Everyone's all of a sudden forgotten about Cam Scott now with his hamstring injury. He was moved over from Hull because he was so good and he's going to be a good young player.
He looks really good, that Pratt.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he really did. And Darryl Powell spoke about him after the game, and he was a bit annoyed that he didn't get man of the match.
I think he said something like Tom Davis has got round his neck what you should have, something like that.
And I can understand.
What's yours from Tom?
Yeah.
or
I
something
can
like
understand that from a coach. There's some times when the best player on the field is on the losing team, and it was. Let's be honest, if that kick goes to hand at the end where Davis makes the tackle on Tom Johnston, then then we're talking about a Wakefield win, and Tom Johnson being on the losing side, picked as man of the match a few minutes before the end.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Josh, sort of in the first part, where I've seen a few comments online that have said that we're not what we were last season. Now, earlier on in last season, we lost 2 of our first 4 and then pushed on from there. And it's just frustrating because it's like, do these people sort of look at the big picture, if you will? Not to sort of out them or anything like that, or do they just see like what's there in front of them?
I'm not firing shots early, but apart from Wigan dismantling Hull, no team has started and looks like superstars yet for me across the league. So I don't know that anyone's turning around going, look how good they are, or they're definitely grand finalists this year, because the season does start slow. We got a bit excited last week, 'cause it was a good opening sort of weekend. I was the one that said it.
You
I
don't
was
win now in
impressed.
February.
But
Exactly.
what do you expect? And I'll always take 4 points when there's 4 points an offer in the first 2 games,
absolutely.
and come away and go, because you don't remember them. I said this last week. No one cares that last year we beat Castleford by 1 point, 2 points. We still made the grand final. So I'll take winning by 1 point last week and 2 points this week, as long as it's points in my league.
It's about 2 points on the ladder, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
And as long as the performances get better, which they will get better. You've also got to remember that they've changed one of the members of the spine in McAlorum in for Parcell. So there's a change there. When Jez comes on, it speeds up a little bit. There's also a change in the halves from week to week as well. Obviously, Tyrone May dropped out, Petter Hickle went in. And I dare say, if that happens last year early on in the season, Hull KR don't survive that game. Maybe they don't survive that game. And I agree with you. Taking 4 points is all well and good, but you don't have to be playing your best rugby league in February.
Yeah, absolutely. Look
You
at
just
Leeds.
have to pick up points.
Leeds, a prime example of that. The amount of times where they'd start off a season and they'd lose 3 out of 4 first games and go on and be in the Challenge Cup final or a grand final, and 9 times out of 10 winning it.
Look at them as well. Leeds have started the season at home and lost to Wakefield, the newly promoted team, and then gone away and dismantled the Salford team who made the top 4 last year. Yeah. So, there's differences from week to week between each and every team. And I agree with you, barring Hull's loss against Wigan, and I still genuinely believe this. I said it last year. If you beat Wigan in the Challenge Cup, you'll win it, and if you beat them in the on the way to the grand final, you'll probably be winning it. So they are still the benchmark and the team to beat.
Without
They're just somewhat different, aren't they?
Yeah, but remember that the changes within their team have been very minimal. They've been very minimal, and the spine's all the same. So everybody's playing to the same hymn sheet still this year as there was last year when they won all 4.
And the ones that have come in have just slotted straight in. It's like for like.
Well, and they don't have the minor injuries that they started off with. So which last year they had French out for a long period. You have him all year, you're worried, aren't you?
Yeah.
Obviously it was all positive. We got the win and massive following from the away fans as usual. I think there was about 1,600 there. But a little bit of a negative, obviously. We suffered an injury to the star man, to Mikey. So he's had a scan to determine the injury, and he's had another one today to determine the severity, if I can get my words out. And so we haven't got the results as of yet, but hopefully it's not looking too bad for him, and it's just a bit of an old angering of a prior injury. So hopefully
the danger word for him is syndesmosis, isn't it? Which is the injury for every rugby league player, the separating of the ankle joint where the ligament holds it together, and it's between a 10 and a 12-week injury with surgery. That's the big danger, and they are caused by tackles where the player's weight falls on the back of the ankle, or the players get it wrong, and I think Max Jowett landed awkwardly on Mikey Lewis, and I don't think there's any malice in it whatsoever. But he could end up with a serious injury, and that dreaded word syndesmosis. We've just had one at Featherstone, so I know what I'm talking about. We've got one at our place now.
It is funny though, because he's been cited for it. So
has he been done, Max Jowett?
I've been sent this through. I was actually sent it from my old man, who was the breakdown of how a hip drop tackle works and a gif of it, and then how it's happened. And I've watched it back, and I'm a little bit in two minds. I don't think there's malice in it. I also think it's a very quick action. He's gone barging through. He's running like a prop forward to score that try. He runs right through the middle. And it's just the way the law of the big collisions happened. He's ended up falling onto Mikey's leg. Yeah. But looking down the list of what's gone through the match review panel today, he has been cited for it.
I think he's been given 3 points, hasn't he? I've just seen it. Yeah. So the difficulty with it is Mikey runs chest on with him. If he makes a tackle chest on and makes it and sticks, we're not talking about an injury, but we're not talking about a try either. Max makes the tackle. He ends up rolling out of it and ends up over the line, and Max ends up over the top of his bottom 2 legs, doesn't he? And that's where the ankle... the worry is that dreaded word, as I said, the syndesmosis, where it's a severity of the injury is between 8 and 12 weeks post-surgery.
We could do without that.
On that, would it have been the player's call to stay on the pitch?
Yeah, probably, because if he feels he can stay on the field and he gets a message to the physio, I'll be okay, they'll try and let him run it off in case it is just a bad sprain, and they'll deal with it 2 or 3 weeks after it. I didn't think he looked well straight after it.
No, the look on his face, you could see it on the TV.
Yeah,
he's like,
there was some
sheer painful.
No, then after they've tried to let him run it off, they've left him out there to miss 3 or 4 tackles on that left edge, where he's found his way to the centre or the wing. Yeah. Once he misses them 3 or 4, when Wakefield are on the way back in, then he's got to be hooked off. And I think they did the right thing. There's lots said about him staying on the field, but rugby players are tough. Sometimes you've got to save them from themselves. But listen, if somebody like Mikey Lewis puts his hand up, you're leaving him out there because he can produce something that he produced to score the try, or the kick that hits the crossbar to cause the mayhem for Tom Davies's. So, you leave your best players on the field for as long as possible and as long as they want to be out there.
I was thinking about this as well earlier. Like, at the end of the day, Mikey will have probably said, I want to stay on. We know what he's like. He's a little warrior. Also, I trust in Peters so much that if they thought, when the physios assessed it, when they had a look, if they immediately thought this could be bad, they would have overruled him, and Willie Peters would have done. He doesn't suffer any fouls, so... Yeah.
I'll give you an example to the one at Featherstone. We got it last Sunday. The player came off injured. He came in the next day and was sore. The next day after, he said, I think I'll be all right to strap it up. He had a scan the following day. The results came back on the Thursday that he needs surgery and he's out 12 weeks. He was ready to strap up and play the following weekend, having done that injury without the scan results. So somebody like Mikey Lewis wants to play on, he plays on. Yeah. The severity of that won't be determined because he played on. It will nowhere near be determined for that. It will be determined off the scan results.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but a positive to come out of that was what Peters has said in his interview about it, in the way that Mikey's dealt with it. I don't know if any of you guys have had a chance to read it, but basically he said the Mikey Lewis of a few years ago wouldn't have dealt with it in the same way that he has done now, and it's showing a maturity to the growth that he's experiencing. Obviously, we didn't see a lot of that in the game. There was still that little bit of petulance there, but off the field, he seems to have sorted that out.
He has matured, and he still is maturing, and he's still a young bloke. We've got to remember that. You know, sometimes forget how young he is just because he seems to have been the main character in our team for so long, and he actually isn't. It's only been a couple of years, and that he's been at the top of the game. It did show in sort of two very conflicting situations on the night. The injury, he's a warrior, he wants to stay out. He's now dealing with it in a professional way, and you know, he made that decision with the support of the physios and the coaching staff, and now hopefully, you know, touch wood, everything's going to be okay, and it's not a serious injury. Then we flip to in the first half when he gets penalised. He isn't trying to stamp on someone. That isn't what's happening. There's just been a lot of argy-bargy. He is a target, and it was quite an aggressive sort of amateur tackle. I'm not sure the Wakefield player that was tackling him, but it was the old ragging of the shirt.
Well, it wasn't even the player that was ragging his shirt.
No,
that was on the floor. It was a young kid off the bench that was on the floor in the end. Mikey's just copped one, hasn't he? But he's got him with a palm, hasn't he?
And that's the point.
Solid Pratt, he gets. He gets Solid Pratt. And he gets him with his arm in, and then he takes offence to that and starts ragging him around, the old amateur style. And then Mikey stands on him. He does stand on him, you know, and he also slings a little slap at him.
It's the slap for me.
That's what we got the penalty against him for. Was the little slap.
He's not been cited for a slap or a stamp in the match by the match review panel anyway.
I think it was more
It's difficult for him to avoid him when he stood over him in terms of trying to get out of the way if he loses his balance and stamps. Do I think he knows a little bit of what he's doing? Probably. You know, having played the game, I think he knows that, listen, if I don't stamp him in his head, then I'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know, if I get him on his arm or his shoulder, I'll be all right.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he's probably got a little piece of him with a stamp, but without it being serious enough for the match review panel to take effect.
It's not a stamp. Like a stamp's real aggressive. For me,
it's just like he was putting his foot down.
Yeah, but he's all locked up in the tackle.
It's right in the way. He couldn't be any more underneath him, right?
No.
The thing that gets me, I talk about a little bit of maturity that we're just missing for him to push on. And we're talking again about the Man of Steel here, but to push on, it's the push on the floor. Yeah. He doesn't need to do that. Yeah. I know it happens, right? It happens at every level, from amateur to professional. It happens in the biggest games, right? But ultimately, if that's what the penalty went for, not the fact that he's caught a stray boot, you know, because that could have gone either way, that's letting the team down.
I think it was after it was for the push.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. I think it's for a push on the floor, which is petulant. The thing with him is so competitive. When it becomes a fend in the face and he rags him around, then it becomes personal for him. And that's where he's got to separate from incidents in a game which become personal, Mikey Lewis versus whoever it may be, and calm himself down. And maybe just go into collisions and situations like that where sometimes you've got to accept defeat. You know, ultimately, he's been ragged around, so try and stay calm in that situation. Get up, play the ball, and keep your team with a football in hand. In my day, he'd have been clipped by a senior pro, and he'd have been fined for giving a penalty away when in possession.
Yeah.
So, you know, little things like that.
Yeah.
So but I do believe he's matured. You know, we're not seeing 2-foot tackles at Lee that we saw a couple of years ago. You know, stuff like that where, you know, they are a big no-no. I think Willie Peters has worked with him on his mentality and his emotional connection within a game.
I think so. And just one more point on that. Also, we're picking out one thing that he did a little bit wrong for me, a little bit petulant, compared to, as you say, multiple times in previous years. And also, because of who he is, because of the target on his back, because he was Man of Steel and so on, of course it becomes more noticeable. Of course there's a million comments on Reddit and on Facebook talking
All
about
eyes are on him.
Of course they are.
Absolutely.
He's apart from Bevan French, he's the best player in Super League. In my eyes, all eyes are on him.
Yeah, I agree. All eyes are on him. He's Man of Steel. He's currently the best player, voted the best player in the competition. You say what you want about Bevan French, he didn't play enough games to win the Man of Steel last year.
Deservedly might have won it.
Individually, Bevan French is still probably the player that you would pick in your team first if you had a free pick. If you could take anybody from another Super League club, you'd take Bevan French.
For the most part, I think Mikey did well leading the team around the pitch on Thursday night.
It was
he had to step up. Yeah, because he didn't have another half-back partner.
He didn't have another half-back, yeah.
Recognised half-back partner, should I say.
I think that showed within the game as well. Because they played everything from right to left to Mikey. Once it went from left to right to Hiku, it stopped there.
Yeah.
Because ultimately playing a half as a specialist half-back finds passes, finds gaps for other players, brings other people into the game. So there was a lot on Mikey Lewis. I'll go back to what was the final score?
14-12.
And Mikey contributed. Davis's try with the kick and then scored himself. So he contributed his 8 out of 14 points. 8 out of 14 points. So ultimately, without him at the weekend, you probably don't win the game.
Yeah.
Says it all, really, doesn't it? Yeah, good.
Just talking about a bit of petulance, I've got it on my notes. I've just seen a little bit of petulance from Mickey Mack, which I think we're all
That's
used
not a
to.
little bit, that's regular.
JWH as well, lashing out in a tackle. And is this because teams are thinking, we can get at these?
Yeah.
Or is it just a bit of ill discipline from Rovers this year? I don't know. But it's not something that you've had good discipline for the last few years. Is this creeping in a little bit?
What's the records of JWH?
Yeah, I know.
And Mickey Mack. So you tell me what other teams are thinking if they're going into a game.
I'm going to try and...
Yeah, and not only JWH comes over with such a reputation that people want to shorten him up. It's as simple as that. There's plenty of front rowers that have come over from Australia in the past that have these big reputations that get dished up because teams go after them because of the reputation.
Of course they do.
So you've just got to be careful, hasn't he, him and Mickey Mack. I thought the Mickey Mack one was really poor from him because I think he's on his way down, the player. I don't know what it was, but he was almost at the ground and he swung a short left. And it ultimately, if Hull KR lose that game, there's a big momentum swing where Mickey Mack gives a penalty away on play 4 on the 30 or halfway line, where they go down the other end and they end up scoring from it. It's I think it's 12v12 at the time, or when they score the try to equalise. They've got the kick to equalise the game. So it's a really costly one, discipline. Really costly.
Mickey Mack has, unfortunately, not shone for us yet. Again, it's 2 games in. But that was a prime example of what people was worried about. These mistakes at big moments in games. 10 minutes then with 9 minutes to go, so he's not coming back on. And he's got 4 points for it from the match review panel. Yeah. So now his record's going up again. The JWH one's a bit different for me because I think the game was really physical. I think that Wakey was so up for it. There was a lot of big hits. There was quite a tough kind of forwards battle all night. And he will be a target. And let's be honest with JWH, we all know his record. You're talking about a man who's got a famous video on YouTube throwing a punch at Hiku, who's now his teammate.
The thing with Jared Rea-Hargreaves is when it gets physical, he gets going. And I dare say, if you look through all of his 300-plus games in his career that he's had, there won't be one of them where he doesn't lash out in. There won't be one of them where he doesn't lash out in. The reason it's becoming prominent over here now that he's over here is because he's such a big signing with such a big reputation that whatever he does, it's going to get jumped on. And that's up to him to deal with emotionally again, isn't it? But you can't teach an old dog new tricks. He's not changing the way that he's played this game for 300 games for the Roosters, and now he's come over to OKR. He's going to play any different. And Willie Peters would be stupid to sit him down and say, I need you to stop being ill-disciplined or stop being so aggressive, because that's just never going to be him.
I think sometimes people forget how tough rugby league is and what the game is, and what we used to watch even as little as 10 years ago when we still had a bit of biff and we had a lot more in it. And I'm not saying we haven't made changes for the better, of course, I'm not here to debate that, but sometimes, you've got to remember it is rugby.
Well, the game's confrontational, it's gladiatorial, it's man versus man at times in the middle of the field, one-on-one, or it's edge v edge, or it's team v team, isn't it? So
definitely.
There's an element of aggression within everything that you do in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think one
key points to wrap up on Rovers.
I just want to touch on a certain Dean Hadley. 200 appearances up for his Super League career. Obviously, Paul, you had him with you at Doncaster for a short while. I was only about 20, I believe.
Yeah.
So he only played a few games, but just wanted to sort of, obviously now he's coming towards the end of his career, I wanted to see what you saw in him back then.
Yeah, well coached by Lee Radford, I'll say that first and foremost. Andy Lee Radford got hold of him as a junior. He came through the system with Andy. You could see he was really tidy. The clean-up guy, you see it in lots of movies where there's a clean-up guy that sorts everything out for people that are in the mafia and stuff. Well, Dino's your clean-up guy on the rugby field. Absolutely. He chops straight third man, he gets back on side and leaves 2 big fellas at markers, so he does their work for them. He carries 20-plus times. He runs for 120 metres every single game. The fact that he's on the bench, I think, will irk him a little bit. I think he wants to play, and he wants to play every minute. I saw him at the Warrington game last year in the league where they played and won in Warrington, which was a bit defining game for OKR.
Yeah, massively.
And they asked him what he was doing. He says, well, I'm out of contract after next year, and I think he's got another year on top, and fully deserved. And, Dino's really low maintenance. You don't have to worry about him off the field. You don't have to worry what he's doing, where he is, anything. Nothing will come back from outside of the group, the training group on nights out or, whatever it is. He's just a top professional. And in my opinion, one of the best players that we've produced in the town.
Wow.
In the city.
It's a big shout out.
I think it's fair though.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't argue with that, can you? And he's represented both of our clubs in the city. So, but yeah, I think that's about it from me. I don't have what else.
Just want to shout out just to Wakefield. We've all praised Rovers for what they've done on and off the pitch since you've gone down and come back up. I think Wakefield need a bit of respect shown to them as well. Massive strides off the pitch by the looks of it. Nice new stand. I think you said you enjoyed it on Thursday night.
I did. I've always enjoyed going to Wakefield anyway, but the new stand, it just makes it feel a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
But it's still got the old style with the flats or whatever it is at the back end. So.
Flats.
Flats.
A sellout,
Nightclub, that.
a sellout, I believe. So positive steps and well done to Wakefield.
Yeah, massively. You just mentioned about attendances, and I think there was only one game that was down on their average attendances from last season over this round of fixtures, and that was Castleford, and there was only down by about 150. Give or take, I didn't really work it out, but everybody
might go
else
down a bit more after the loss to God.
possibly. But no, I just wanted to just give rugby league a bit of a pick up in terms of noticing the crowds, and because we're all quick to say, oh, attendance was rubbish, so. I
think very much like Hull KR going down in 2016 to come back up in 2017, Wakefield have used it as a reset and rebuild button. I think what Darrell's done and his staff, he's brought in Michael Shenton from Hull. He's got Danny Kermond on his staff. They've got Luke Gale in the academy coach now. They're making strides to be a team which promotes from within, and they've created a team and an environment last year. The recovery room they've got is fantastic. The players that they signed last year was of Super League quality. Add to that Tom Johnson, Mike McMeekin, a couple of others from overseas that they've brought in, and let a couple go to bring them in. I think they're doing lots of really good things under.
You mentioned
the new
McMeekin
owner,
there, and
Ellis.
He was an absolute warrior. On Friday night.
It was phenomenal.
It was
It probably did go off.
It was causing us trouble all the
He
time.
just seemed to be on the pitch for the full 80 minutes. Yeah. It was something else. He had an absolute superb game.
Yeah, that'll wrap us up. We wait and see how Mikey gives us a bit of nerves for who we're going to play in the halves on Thursday night. There's a lot of options.
With Jez and Danny, I would assume.
Danny Richardson and somebody else.
Minchalla, I'd like to think, but we'll see what happens.
I don't know. I think he gives you too much in the middle.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Do you want to touch on the second half now?
A bit like this.
Recycling old jokes.
Yeah. It wasn't funny the first time.
No, it wasn't, was it?
It's only because they don't want to talk about Hull. So they want to get through it and go, they've spent so long talking about Rovers.
I'll touch on the sponsor in a second, but at this point, I don't know what to say about our game, but I'll touch on our sponsor anyway. So today's episode is sponsored by Walton & Co Accountants. God, I can't get my words out. So, assisting local businesses with expert accounting and taxation advice in Hull. They do company formations, company accounts, payroll, VAT returns, bookkeeping services, self-assessment, and much, much more. If you're thinking about starting a new business, if you need some advice or feel you need a change of accountant that understands your needs more, and even if you think you're paying too much, please get in touch. The number's on screen. It's 01482 223 435 or email hello@waltonandcohull.com. And that'll just about do for that. And now we get to talk about Hull.
14,700.
Yeah, great attendance.
Can I just say it's back? Did everybody hear that sigh?
No, you got a sigh last week when we mentioned Callum.
Yeah, but that's different. This is a Hull sigh.
Yeah, it was a proper sigh. And it's an unwarranted sigh, I think, because I've said it a few times to a few people, and I've had a few people say it back to me, both Hull fans and Rovers fans. I don't think we played bad. And it sounds weird to say it. I genuinely feel like I watched Penrith Panthers in Wigan shirts just absolutely nail everything they attempted. They didn't put a foot wrong, and it was kind of cruel, I think, the way that they played, because we had a team out there that we've asked for months and months, years and years, that put their heart and soul into what they did in black and white, and then you had a Wigan team turn up and do that, and yeah,
they were just, I keep saying it, they was ruthless, and they're relentless at doing it. It's move up in defence. It's every set. You've played the game. It's not like, oh, we'll have a big push in defence for a couple of sets. It's every set. every tackle in that set, and they're in your face, forcing you into quick plays, single plays, rush last tackle kicks. Then they'll come bombarding at you in attack, and if they don't score, it's another kick into the corner, and then they're back at you in defence again. It's just a vicious circle, and God help any team that comes up against them this year.
You said it looked like Penrith in Wigan shirts. It looks like Wigan in Wigan shirts.
Yeah.
They're World Club champion. And I know that sounds
Probably
stupid.
a slight on
yeah,
Wigan,
it's mental that how good they are. I spent a day last year in February with Matt Pete and Wigan. And I tweeted about it, and it's one of the most fascinating days of rugby league education I've ever had in my life. I sat and talked to him about his systems and how he deals with players and what they do. And I watched him in a meeting after they played Hull in Scott Taylor's testimonial, and they won 40-0 last year. Yeah. And I watched the review of that and how he went around his review and what how he got the players to interact to him. I just think what they do is the pinnacle of our sport in our country. Now, they will beat teams by more than 44 points, just whatever it was. They'll beat teams by more than that this year. Hull fans, don't get carried away with going to Catalan and winning. Catalan are easy to get at the beginning of a season. I think we've seen that. Or easier to get at the beginning of a season. That's a bit disrespectful. But coming home against Wigan, having lost 1-0 the week before in Golden Point, was never going to be easy. Never going. The worst result in the world for Wigan, for Hull FC last week, was Wigan losing 1-0. Hull are on a journey to get to a point where they can compete again. They're not in it to win a competition right now, and they're not in it to win a Challenge Cup. They're scarcely going to try and improve on last season. So take Wigan out of it, both games against Wigan in one season, and forget about that and try and do your best against the rest of the league, because right now they're in a league of their own.
A lot of people have said this. Results against Wigan this season will not define our season and define our journey.
No.
And no true words spoke, I don't think.
I just hope our playing squad think like that as well, because there's a lot of youth in there. And, you get smashed by 40-odd points, and there's a lot of youth that maybe, after last season, should know how to deal with defeat, but maybe haven't learnt that, haven't got that maturity yet.
Expectation levels have gone up a bit as well, haven't they? In terms of, we don't want them results. I think John Cartwright came out and said, he says about, we're still not happy with the scoreline. And I think that's a really good statement to say. Because whilst you can go away from defeat and take some positives, ultimately it's a defeat, and a defeat by 40+ points. He's not happy with that, and he's not going to accept that. But I think him and his staff, Andy Last and Simon Griggs, they understand that they've got bigger fish to fry than Wigan at home and Wigan away from home. Yep. And what you just said, there's never a truer word said than your games won't be defined by winning or losing against Wigan this year.
Definitely not.
Who played well? Who was good?
I liked the look of Caesar. He looks sharp, and he looks like he's got a point to prove. I don't know if that's the right thing to say. Asiata holds the middle well. I thought the young wingers again. I thought Barron and Martin. I think there was our only two players over 100 metres. I think Wigan had 9 as well, by the way.
That tells you. So, that's a big start,
That's
isn't
a
it?
big difference.
Yeah, they'll be fuming that they got 2 over 100 for Wigan.
Yeah, they'll be fuming that they conceded a try, I think.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out Rapana. Have you seen the game?
Not seen the game. I didn't see it, so I was aware.
I'm loving his energy, and I'm loving his his eagerness to win. You can just see it in him. He don't want to lose. He wants to go out there and do the best he can for it. I think he's doing do a little bit too much. There's a couple of times where he's at fullback, and then he's making a tackle in the defensive line, and twice he got caught out. And I don't. Is that trying to do too much for your team? I don't know.
If he's got that energy, let him burn it. That's what I'd say.
Is that what you'd say?
I do think he's come in and brought in a different professionalism to the club.
Yeah.
Where he's raised standards as well. Him and Asiata, probably Hardacre, which is something that the club had to do in terms of lead the way for the youngsters in how to build a team and win and be confident and deal with defeat. The experienced players have learnt to do that. And the young kids last year had nobody to look up to in that department.
Fair enough, yeah.
Just make a quick point on Rapana, just because I've seen this a lot on social media. Fields' hat-trick, his fair try.
Yeah.
from the scrum,
Yeah.
which is, you know, literally how we scored in our Challenge Cup match the other week, as if it's straight from the training field. He's getting slated a lot online for not bothering, for letting field run past him. And I kind of get the point of, like, you're a professional, you've come across this reputation, but let's just give some credit to the play itself and also the fact it's Jai Field. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, we go on about Bevan French all the time, but Jai Field is an unbelievable player.
The thing with that is, and it's something that coaches will look at, that's a coach's try, that's not the players. The coaches have told them what's going to happen from the scrum. So when you watch all scrums from midfield now, the second row gets out to the first receiver, okay, because the scrum half's on the other side of the scrum. The loose forward, which is the fullback, has got to get to the corner flag because they've got a 4-on-3. So if the pass finds the winger, the fullback makes the tackle at the corner flag. So he's already on his way to the corner flag. You know, and then the switch of play when you're running full pelt to the corner flag to get back for Jai Field, who's blinking, you'll miss him anyway. Yeah. There's no fault of Rapana, none whatsoever. It's just a well-rehearsed training move. Also, clock the front row for Wigan, who grabs a hold of Herman Essiesa and just stops him enough so that he can't get on the inside to tackle Field.
I think he was a
So it's just a really well-rehearsed try that comes off from coaching staff onto training field. Or players may have seen it during video and gone to the coaching staff and said, what about we try this, Gaffer, you know, and gone with it that way. But there's no blame in anything. It's just a well-worked move from Wigan.
Yeah, I didn't think there was any blame on Rapana there.
No, I don't.
Like you said, he was going across to his left, and Fields cut back on ever such a slight angle that it looks bad because he's so close to Field, or Field's so close to Rapana, but he can't change direction that quickly. I don't think anybody can.
It becomes a 5v3 as well, by the way, because the loose forward picks up and finds Smith, who's come round from feeding the scrum. So all of a sudden there's 5-on-3. No wonder everybody's legging it towards the corner flag, because there's 5 players on 3.
On coaches' decisions, like you said, I want to ask, it's a question I wanted to ask you, and we've noticed it, especially the first 2 weeks of the season, short dropouts.
Yep.
Wakefield, God, I think Wakefield tried to 1-1,
yeah.
not got long. Spit my words out.
One from 2.
50%. We'd just scored. It was probably our best patch of the game. Yeah, they'd forced a dropout from us, but we went short. They scored. Try. Salford tried it for Saturday. Leeds caught it, scored that set. Castleford tried it. Saints caught it, scored that set. Yeah. Is it a ploy that coach?
Well, because you can't. If the ball doesn't go 10 anymore, it's a penalty in front, or it's just to play the ball in front.
Don't mean you have to try it every dropout.
Yeah, but the risk outweighs the reward. The reward outweighs the risk in a lot of cases, because if you regather the ball, you get the ball back, and if you don't, you defend 10 metres from your try line, and often it's easier to defend in your own 10 than it is to defend it outside of your own 20, because you can only have one marker, and that means you've got 12 players in the defence line when you're on try line, including your fullback. So it becomes more difficult to score a try inside the 10, because if you don't win the ball inside the 10 and the defence is set, there's 1 or 2 more players in the defence line. Whereas if you're on the 30-metre line or 40-metre line, the defence is split 6 and 4 or 5 and 5, depending on where the field to play the ball is. So it's worth the risk at times. What the problem is, I think I saw a whole team do it when they was in the game or level at half-time, and do it just before half-time. That's a big no-no. Just kick the ball long and get to half-time. There's certainly times to do it, but the reward outweighs the risk, because there's no penalty in front and 2 points to be had anymore. You just have to defend another set. You're defending it from 10 yards out or 10 metres out, as opposed to 30 metres out.
Fair enough.
Where it can be different.
I've been waiting for him to ask you that question since he mentioned it to me the other day. But my question off the back of that is, I know you said half-time, tied up, just boot it downfield. And I think it's maybe the amateur player in me, the guy that was never fit, that kind of thinks it. I've never defended in my own 10 and thought, yeah, this is all right, this is better. But we had our tails up. Do you know what I mean? So I'm thinking, let's not invite any pressure. If it were me, like in my head, I'm like, just get it downfield, get them away from the try line, try and keep us in a position where our tails are up, win the ball back, you know, maybe,
Where did Wigan score the tries from? Because I saw what. So my point. So that's my point. My point is, then you say that. My point is, but they scored off the halfway line anyway. So if you kick it to the halfway line, they can score from there.
True.
And you've got less defenders than you have inside your own 10 on the try line. So that's the risk and reward factor in terms of that I would think as a coach in that. You know, they're never going to win the game, and a short dropout try they conceded brought the back in the second half. Maybe there wasn't, because I did read Cartwright say it was that try that brought their back after half time. So there's an element of, is it worth it then? You know, if the coach is saying that after the game, maybe they'll think differently if they do it next time. Maybe.
For me, that was it. We just scored 2 or 3 minutes earlier. I'm not saying the win was on, we was backing it, but it was our best spell of the game, and then they just crushed it.
What happened after the try that they scored on the next set? Did they drop the ball or something? Then did Wigan get invited back in?
No, I think we made a break, and then Wigan come back up the field, forced to drop out.
So there's no fault of an error after the try, is what I'm saying.
No, you completed really well after that.
Yeah, we had a good set. We had a good set after the game.
Ultimately, it's just Wigan being Wigan, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Roll downfield and kick you into.
Like I said at the beginning,
your own try line.
And I'll repeat it again. I don't think we played bad. It was just.
I've seen it so much on Twitter this weekend. Ullah just no change, all the same as last year. And I'm thinking
that was sat 2 seats down.
That team last year would have conceded 80.
Yeah, there's a change, isn't there?
Yeah.
The thing with Hull now is, who do they play this week?
Huddersfield away.
Huddersfield away. So if they go to Huddersfield away and get beaten by 40, then you're worrying about Hull being the same old Hull, aren't you? That's your worry then. And then the game after that and the game after that. If they string 3 or 4 40, 50 pointers against them, then we're all saying, well, this is the same old Hull FC. If they can stop that, and they're not playing Wigan this week, they're playing Huddersfield. If they go there and put in a good account of themselves or win the game, then we're saying Hull FC have changed.
Let's remember what you two said as well coming into this season. Very realistic. What is your expectation for Hull this year? And you'd both said, do better, build better, play as a team. Probably won't even make the playoffs, which is fine. It's tough to do in Super League. But as long as you're up there at 7th, 8th, 9th, and you're not at the bottom, and again, it's Wigan. Yeah. So you've done that. And as you've just said, it's not 80 points, it's 40. So, I don't think you can go into panic stations. And, of course, you shouldn't get wound up by people on Twitter saying it's the same old Hull.
You were just saying just Wigan then. Saturday comes around. I'm like, sorting stuff out for the next few weekends. She was like, oh, the wife goes, what are you doing this? I was like, Wigan away in the cup.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't think you're going any further in the cup. That's all.
No, we'll be there though. We'll be there. Just a congratulations to Will Hutchinson. I don't know if anyone's seen it. There was a video posted by the club. He made a FaceTime call to his dad to let him know that he was getting picked for the game the next day, I think. That was great to see. Just a little insight into that snippet.
Yeah, well, I saw that and commented on it on social media. It's and I see it with lots of young kids. Everybody's journey begins somewhere. I remember my debut at Hull FC, or Hull Sharks as it was then, playing against St Helens.
Oh, you've said him started.
Listen, but playing against St Helens, who was top of the table, a real baptism of fire. But you only get one debut, off the bench, and then you only get one full debut when you start. So, good luck to the young man. And I thought it was a fantastic piece by Hull FC.
Yeah, it was great.
To put that out there, and it shows what it means to parents of young Hull local people.
Yeah, 'cause you see it a lot in American football.
Yeah, you do.
For me,
and
to
the
go
NRL.
back to my American sports, you see that a lot, like college players when they're getting drafted to the NFL or the NHL or anything like that. There's always a big party, like a gathering, and obviously it's a bit different over there because they have like drafts and things like that, and there's expectancy there. But yeah, it's just nice to see us sort of doing them things because that, again, what we spoke about a few weeks ago, allows fans to connect. And as Hull fans, that's all you two have really been asking for, is to give you something to connect with, and that allows you to do that.
Do you want to touch on the pre-game?
Yeah, it just led me into that.
The fan zone. I'm reading your notes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Fan zone is a great idea. No, it was. I think me and Dean both thought the same thing. We both got there early, which a lot earlier than we normally do, and we went to the fan zone at the Tigers Trust Arena. It was not quite what I expected. For me personally, as not being a parent, it's not really something I'll do again. But I think for parents, anyone with kids, even if Dean wasn't there and I took the girls, I think it was fantastic. There was blow up the thing, bungee things where you got to run against it and score a try. There was a passing game. They even had a massive bunny rabbit. I don't know what that was, but it was
not a clue. It was great for kids, and it's good to see we're trying to engage with the kids again. I'd like to see expand on that, so it's good for everybody, all age groups. The new branding at the stadium as well, in the main reception.
Yeah, I saw that.
The club put on some pictures middle of last week, didn't they?
They're making a huge effort to connect with the ex-players too, where they're in the Legends Bar. I had a phone call off Lee Crooks. So I was training at Featherstone, so I couldn't get there. But are you in the Legends Bar tonight so that we can have a chat or whatever it is? So they're doing the best to reconnect, and that's an adult thing, isn't it? Where they're having a beer and a pizza. I know they can take the kids in there as well, but I think it's fantastic what the club's trying to do.
Yeah, it's great.
And re-engaging with the young people in Hull is massive.
As a former player, did you feel a disconnect in the stadium when you were at Hull?
Well, I did, because I left them, didn't I, mid-season?
No, I'm not about that. I mean, you go into the changing rooms and stuff, and there is a lot of Hull City branding.
Yeah, well, it's funny because, I never got asked to do anything at the club until Tony Smith took over. So I went in and gave Danny Houghton his 450th shirt, and Liam Tyndall his debut shirt last year, and was asked to do a few things. I've done lots of things for Danny Houghton's testimonial. I've done things for Houghton's testimonial, Jamie Shawls, Kay Keemans and stuff like that, because they've done 10 years at the club. I've always tried to support them in that way, but I was never invited back to the club until Kath and Code left the club. So there was a bit of disconnect in that way, that didn't bother me. But I think the heritage of the club and the history of the club should never be forgotten. It's funny, this year's 20 years since we won the cup. So I was invited to the shirt launch of the 20-year reunion, and there's a reunion this year of the new shirt that they've got out this year, which is commemorated by the 2005 winning at Cardiff. So
I was going to ask
there's
that.
things that the club are doing that are much different and better than they've ever done it before.
Good.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, because watching the game on TV on Friday night, every time I looked, I expected the shirt to say Gemtech across the front of it. Like, it was very, very reminiscent of that shirt, and that is something that I was going to ask, and you've just alluded to it. So
I said it when it was launched, that may well be a shirt that I actually part with my hard-earned money with for. And I know that's there's the 90s retro collection coming out. I love that stuff. I grew up I was a season pass holder at OKR at 15, which broke my mum and dad's heart because they was black and white. But they got me one, and I grew up on the terraces at OKR in the 90s. So stuff like that I think is fantastic. And the reunion at the end of this year with Richard Swain coming back over, and I'm really looking forward to it, to connecting with people that. And the shirt, I think, is fantastic.
We had Johnny Keir as the Legend Parade at the
So I spoke to John.
Delivering the ball.
Yeah, well, I spoke to John on Thursday. I still speak to the boss, still call him the boss.
The boss.
So, I spoke to him on Thursday about that and just said, really hope you enjoy it because you deserve it.
He got a really good reception as well.
Yeah,
I think he wanted to show his lad, this was his comment to me, he wanted to show his boy that he's respected everywhere else as well. Because his lad hasn't seen him grow up through it all.
Yep.
So he's a younger fella. So he's shown his lad now that his reception at Hull FC, and I think that's wonderful.
Good.
Absolutely wonderful.
It's good to hear. So,
The
but
club are doing a lot of good things.
they are doing a lot of good, and for the first time in years, they felt like there was a buzz around the stadium.
Yeah,
there was fans chanting half an hour, 45 minutes before the game, which I can't remember that being a thing for donkey's years. Yeah, Wigan sort of killed the atmosphere a little bit with the way they played, but
Just a tad.
Yeah, just a bit.
tad. But it was nice to go to a game and feel like we was at home, and feel like getting that little bit, that giddy feeling back in your head.
Is it nice to feel part of a club again?
Yeah. I've
it
said
feels
so
like a
many
club
times
again,
last
doesn't it?
year, I feel disconnected with my first love.
Yeah,
And
I think that's a huge statement for someone like Richie Milo, who's taken over at the club as CEO, and for Andrew Thurkel, who's putting his money in now. That's a huge statement away from somebody who's been black and white since they've been knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yeah.
It's a huge statement that you've now got to reconnect them people that have got black and white blood. It's back to your club, to their club. And I think they are trying to do
they
that.
need so much credit for what they've done in a short space
OKR
of
have done
time.
it in different ways. Them getting relegated was a catastrophe for the club. OKR. Now all of a sudden they're one of the best here, and the journey that they've been on to get there. Hull are at the start of theirs.
Yeah.
Hull are at the start.
We just haven't gone down like you did.
Oh, that's a fair point.
That's,
think we
no, that,
needed
no, I'm
to.
not, that's not a dig either. That's the only difference in this.
Yeah.
We've had to start at the bottom basically, but luckily we've just been able to stay
Yeah, I
in
think-
to do it.
Probably wasn't even as low as they went then in terms of
No.
by being out of the division.
I think we needed that reset. Like, it allowed us to trim the deadwood and get players that want to be at the club to be at the club, not because they're there getting a wage, which you do get some players that do that.
And maybe Wakefield did that by being relegated, because as stupid as it is, the rules allow you to cut players once you're relegated. Oh, the contract's not worth the paper it's written on then, and they're out the door.
Yeah, 'cause it's
if
a
Hull got
Super League
relegated
contract,
last year or the year before, and then all of a sudden did what Wakefield did, and are bouncing like Wakefield are, is it any different to trying to reset now?
Yeah.
I mean, there's still players at the club probably that they want to not get rid of, but that don't see a long-term future, which is why Richie Marler's pushing players out the door. You know, in terms of Liam Tyndall and Jack Walker, you know, we've seen that well documented that they've moved on. They're trying to reset, but they're trying to reset without being able to cancel contracts of players once you're relegated. They're doing it by paying them off, which is even more of a commitment financially.
Ever so slightly conflicting that, because I don't really disagree with it. But one of the best things that ever happened to us as a club was getting relegated, not because of what's happened since in the rebuild, because we got to win something. So we got to learn that winning mentality back.
Feeling.
And that's what Wakefield have done. They dominated last year in the Championship, right? So it got fans in. We travelled so well the year we went down, right? And we loved going to all the places we hadn't been for years, from when I was a kid. And then all of a sudden, it was like, we can win games. And actually, we've won the league. And now we can compete. And it got us back into a winning mentality that people bought into. So in some remarks, you know, it is a bit silly to say being relegатed's a good thing, but Wakefield could be about to do the same thing. And the fact that you didn't actually go down is perhaps why it's taking that bit longer to move on to that positive.
Look, you've got to move players on financially rather than cut contracts.
One thing that you mentioned there as well, it's one thing that I like, just touching on the Challenge Cup, this making all the Super League teams play away. I love the fact that, you know, I might get the opportunity to go watch at Rochdale or, you know, somewhere up in... Where is it?
It's just Wigan.
Whitehaven, Wakefield.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, them people are just like us. When you go up there, they'll love the Rugby League. Them places, I've been to lots of them in the Championship and Champ 1 when I was playing League 1 with Doncaster, and Championship and as a coach. They are the salt of the earth people that just want
So much
and love
passion as
Rugby
well for
League.
the game.
Yeah,
Go into them, I agree with you. Go into them places is fantastic.
One of my all-time favourite away days was Workington.
Yeah, I played there for Hull KR in a cup game. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was in a
Wonderful.
cup game. They had, was it Wayne Price on the wing? And we was all singing to him and he was giving it back and stuff like that.
I think there's one place where I will admit that I don't want to go again.
Craven
I'm
Park.
going to say Hull KR, right? Yeah.
Keithley.
Keith
Oh, yeah, you did say that.
Yeah.
I love Cougar Park.
Jake Webster's there. Jake Webster's the boss there now.
I went.
You'd love to go back there and see Jake again.
Yeah,
I went twice following Toronto, and that stand. Honestly, I sat in it and I'm like, I'm moving around here. Like I'm not comfortable with this.
We always stood down the other side, down the terrace.
Yeah.
I didn't open it. Toronto didn't bring any fans, did they?
Just jump on to finish on a couple of injuries.
Yeah.
Go on, you do it.
All right.
He's winding me up now.
Sal, unfortunately, it looks like he's possibly played his last game for the club as well. We've been out of contract at the end of the year. We're bringing... was it
Liam Knight.
Liam Knight. I can't say I know out about him. I've probably seen him play in the NRL, but
good player.
I've not. I can't say I remember him if I have.
There's any other injuries in the club? Obviously, they've got the injuries of Hardacre.
We've got Amir, Burrow, and Ashworth hopefully back this week. We've been told today Hardacre is now up to 6 weeks.
2 to 6, yeah.
And we've not had anything else about Asiata, have we? Is it a cork in the bicep?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Stinger, I would assume.
It's a dead arm. A cork is the Australian slang for a dead leg, a dead arm, a cork in the leg, a cork in the arm.
Yeah, I read that and I was like, what?
My first thought went to Stinger.
The fault with Liggy Sowers, and the thing with Liggy Sowers, and I spoke to Carlos Tumavavi on the bus from London home last night. Liggy loves the place. He loves Hull. His kids are settled. His family's settled. And it's really sad that he's probably not going to play for the club again.
Yeah, it is.
He may well come back. We don't know. Touch wood, he comes back and gets to a level where he can play top level again. It's a nasty, nasty injury, that is for sure.
It looked like he'd been shot. It was...
The patella tendon's ripped off. I mean, that's that's a horrible, horrible injury. Horrible injury. You know, tendons are the biggest ones, aren't they? And you know, your Achilles goes, or any tendon goes, your bicep tendon goes. You're a long, long time. So let's hope he can get back, and let's hope he can get back to a club that take him on and take a chance on him.
Wish him a speedy recovery.
It's tough, and I spoke to Carlos. He says he's just going to leave him alone for a few days before he checks in with him, because he will be really upset. And the life of a rugby league player,
Aye.
We done for all?
We're done for all.
Yeah. On that sad note, we always end on
Finished
it.
more positive there.
Yeah, we
couldn't you?
could have done.
Should have finished on the
Me
crowd.
Burrow's back next week. There we go. There we go. Right. There we go. We'll touch on Tribal then. So this week at Tribal, we've got Rovers versus Salford on Thursday, 8 p.m. kickoff. I'll be going to that game. That'll be really fun in an all shirt.
So yeah, I can just confirm that.
Hold on, wait, I'm reading.
Oh, sorry, I
Just
forgot you was doing the full thing.
On Friday at 8 p.m. I'll be going to that game in an all shirt as well. Then on Saturday, they've got DJ Steve Cable doing Clubland. I'm not going to tell the missus that that's on. And then Sunday, there's something else. Come on, there we go. Kingswood Laughs Comedy Night, Sunday the 2nd of March. Free drink with early bird tickets, so you can, if you could click that link, you'd be able to book, but you can't. So go on Tribal's Twitter, and then, oh God, this one's taking ages. I'm doing this live. This is not good. There we go. 15% off food and drink orders for all season pass holders at Hull FC and Hull KR. And you've got, you've got to bring your season pass. Craig, yes, I know you just have to bring your phone. If you're a Rovers fan, you don't have to remind me. And that's that.
Well, that's fantastic, that, because my daughter's a season pass holder at OKR, so whenever I want to come and eat some food now, I'm bringing her. Or I'm bringing a season pass anyway.
Just
She can sit in the car.
Yeah, borrow a phone, yeah.
Yeah, sit in the car. You come in
That's
by
the one.
yourself.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Do you want to tell
I
our
can do.
guest?
Go for it. What's
So we do a predictions league,
Yeah.
and at the end of last year, the poorest one was poor Jimmy on the end, and I was allowed to pick the forfeit. And I'm able to confirm it was very difficult to do this because, as you know, the mighty East Stand is so sold out that you're very
that's what it's about.
lucky. You're very lucky that I managed to find someone away, and also an injured family member whose pass was up for going as well. So we have got a couple of options. But on Thursday night, Jimmy will be coming to the East Stand with me and Craig. He will be wearing his FC shirt, his XXXL1 on top of his jumper or his big coat.
And his NFL pads and his hockey gear.
And his helmet as well. I'm sure he'll be putting his
stick.
helmet on.
And I tell you what worries me for you. We don't know what's happening with the injuries. We don't know what shape or what team we're putting out yet. And it could be a tough game against Salford. And if we turn a bit feral because we're not enjoying it, you could easily become that target.
I've already said, one, I'm cheering for Salford. I don't care where I'm stood. Two, I also said to Dean earlier in the week, I'm getting a bit twitchy about it. A bit twitchy bum about it.
Wherever I'm stood, I'm going to be cheering for Salford. You might be stood in the River Hull.
Well, I won't be stood there. I'll be floating
there, yeah.
Your 4XL top like a life jacket.
I'm getting on the back. I'm getting. I lost a bet, and then my hope is that because there's a lot of fans in the East Stand, and not all of them watch this. I think about 4 of them do. I'm going to try and play off. I think that I'm a Rovers fan in an Hull shirt, so that they feel sorry for me. That's my
You're
play.
forgetting you'll be stood with us and I'll be telling everybody exactly who you are.
Has that neon sign
Some
you ordered
stag do or something. You need to be
that's
sitting here
what
on
I'm
a
trying
stag
to
do.
play it as.
Has that neon sign you ordered saying not a Rovers fan come through yet?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it at all. And the closer I get, the less I'm looking forward to it. So.
Well, there's only the only way you win on that night is if Salford win.
Well,
yeah,
I don't
but
know
Then
about
you've
that.
got to celebrate quietly, I guess.
I suppose, but I will. I don't think I'll be able to hold it in. You know, every time Sneedy gets a kick in, especially because I know how much Craig hates it.
Oh, I despise that.
Yeah,
I do expect the Sky cameras to pick you out. I really do. I'd be shocked if
I'll be
they
a
I
bit
do
don't.
when I
if you
text,
don't,
when I
yeah,
text
fair.
Brian Carney and tell him.
Oh, I'll do it. Right, so we have got a guest on. It'd be a bit remiss of us if we didn't speak to you about you. I
Just
think.
keep it low key, shall we?
Yeah.
Quick
Okay.
segment.
So,
quick segment will suit
so
me.
you went from
That's it, that's
Hull
him.
to Rovers. No, I'm not going to bring
Yeah,
on
go
that.
for it. Yeah,
I think
2007.
We've covered that, haven't we, in your book? I think there's a lot of stuff that's already been covered. So we're a bit more interested in now.
Yep.
What's going on for Paul Cooke? Obviously you've alluded to the fact that you're at Fev.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's okay. We lost our first game yesterday at London, which was a tight one, missing a few players, and had our chances to win, but didn't. So there's, the expectation levels at Featherstone are very similar to expectation levels at OKR, where they've been at the top of that division for a long time, and the next step is for them to be staying up there. So the players are learning to deal with that. It's something that I've dealt with all of my career, whether that's as a coach or a player, different expectation levels at different clubs. So. But at the minute, we're 1 from 2. We've got a game this weekend in the 1895 Cup, which is the road to our Wembley, in terms of Keighley Cougars at home. So we'll see how we go in that one. Then we play Sheffield. So we're very early on. I've only been there this pre-season. So I went there from York last year. I went to York for a season and did 10 games with Andrew Henderson and then 16 with Mark Applegarth, and met some really good people there. Still stay in touch with them. One of my bestest pals now is Jed Corcoran, the assistant who's the Ireland head coach. So me and Jed are really good pals and we stay in touch regular. So yeah, back involved in the game and loving it. I spent all of last night, having lost to London, thinking about whether I got the game plan right in terms of attacking and structures. So my missus was glad when I got home last night, downloaded the game, and then effing and blinding into my laptop at 11:30 last night. So yeah, I'm trying to come to terms with that loss last night and what we can do better for this week. So there's never a dull moment in rugby league, that's for sure.
What are the aims and targets this year? Have you set any out personally for the team?
I went in and they asked me what you want to achieve with the group. I want to make them better people and better players, and I want to make the club a better place. Wherever I am, I just want to make a positive difference. So I don't have an expectation of winning the comp or being in a cup final or winning something. I want to win every game. I don't want to lose. I hate losing. The fear of losing drives me to want to win even more. So I want to win every game and I want to win every competition. I want to win the Challenge Cup this year with Featherstone. We're still in it. We go to Catalan, which is probably unrealistic. You know, if we play Wigan for sure. I want to win the 1895 Cup. I want to win the league. I want to win everything. But it's unrealistic. But the biggest thing for me in the game is to try and make a positive influence in and around the place that I am and with the people that I work with. Nobody's beneath anybody. I'm not above anybody. Nobody's above me. Nobody's beneath me. We all work together and we try and make a positive difference at Featherstone Rovers.
Fair enough. Good. Talking of that trip to Catalan,
Yeah.
is there some confusion with the
the date's still not been announced yet, so it's difficult because Catalan pay for you to go over there, don't they? So trying to get flights over there on the days, it's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
So until I get told the day we're going, the only thing I was sceptical of is whether my passport was in date, and I checked that last week. So I'm in date and I'm raring to go. And I've got no visa issues like Sam Burgess has. So there we are.
I had to drop that one in there, didn't you?
Yeah, just for a bit of fun.
Yeah, why not?
There's we talked before we started recording. We sort of mentioned a bit on some of the different places you've been. And obviously, you did spend quite a bit of time with Rugby Union, you know. And we have got a bit of not an exodus, but we've seen some really big people in the sport leave. So we've seen obviously Sinfield part of the England setup. We know Radford's out there now doing his bit in Northampton and doing a good job by all accounts. Is it something that you see as a bit of a risk across our sport? Because we don't want to lose these people, these players that go into coaching. And it's only a few examples, but a couple of big names, particularly Sinfield and yourself having done that.
Well, yeah. Well, Andy Farrell's a British Lions
example I've missed.
Sean Edwards, Paul Deakin.
Yeah.
Jamie Langley's only just come back. Sean Long went to Harlequins, who's just come back to Oldham now. He came back to Featherstone and then Oldham. So the biggest thing in Rugby Union and the biggest deflector for people from League to Union is there's so many jobs. So in Rugby League, you've got 12 Super League clubs with 12 head coaches' jobs, with 12 assistants and 12 other assistants, or 24 assistants. Then you've got an S&C head of, and then you've got some S&C under that. In Rugby Union, they have a squad and a 53-man squad roster. They have different coaches for each department. So defence, forwards, scrum, line out. Then in the backs, they've got set pieces. They've got skills coaches. They've got kicking coaches. They've got a coach for just about everything.
Sounds like the NFL.
Yeah, it is a lot like that. It is a lot like that. So there's so many more opportunities for Rugby League people, or for any person to be a coach in Rugby Union than there is in Rugby League. Where was Lee Radford going to go after Castleford? If he wasn't a coach at Castleford, where was his next job?
Yeah, and I suppose
he's already won the Challenge Cup twice with Hull.
He probably wasn't going to be an assistant, was he?
Exactly. So where's his next job?
Yeah.
It's one of the other 11 Super League clubs, or 10 if you work out he's left Castleford and left Hull FC. So there's only 10 left he can coach then, because he's probably not going to go back to Hull FC and he's not continuing at Cass. So there's only one of 10 jobs that he can get in our sport.
Yeah.
So where's the next one?
That's
so he goes to Rugby Union. So yeah, there's just so many more jobs in the game in Rugby Union.
What was you going to ask?
Great
So for you then now, you say you're back into rugby league, loving it. What's the goal? Do you want to get? Do you want one of them 12 jobs?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Right now, no. I was happy to go back in at York as an assistant and just being in and around players again. The difficulty with being out for 4 years, it's not easy to forget or anything like that. You're easy to be forgotten. But once you're in and amongst it, you've got to know that you're valuable and that, not valuable in that sense, in financial terms or anything like that, but as a commodity to the team, you've got to know that you make a difference positively. And if you don't make a difference positively, then I won't be there. So it's really easy for me just to go in at Featherstone now, and if it doesn't work out, then I'll leave, and I'll leave on good terms. I've got no axe to grind with anybody. At the minute, I just want to assist. I want to work with players. I want to have fun with the players. I don't want anybody's head coach's job as yet. I'm not interested as yet. If it happened last year at York when Andrew Henderson was relieved of his duties and they asked me to take it, the only way I would have taken that job is till the end of last season because I love the players and I loved the place that I was working at and I love the people. So I loved that aspect of it and I would have done it till the end of that year. But I'm not sure I would have continued another year after that. I'd have only done it because I felt I owed the players. And I love the players, and it's all about the players. We don't have a game if we don't have top rugby league players, whether that's Championship or whether that's Super League. And I love working with players. So at the minute, I'm happy where I am. If something gets thrust upon me, it will take me to be in that organisation to do a head coach's job before somebody else either comes in or I decide at the end of that season that I want to take it after that. I've got no desire to go in and take somebody's job or to go into any other club as a head coach just yet.
Aside of the coaching, you're doing media work? Is it?
Yeah, I still enjoy it with TalkSport. Yeah, do a little bit with BBC and Sky. So yeah, I love it. Listen, I go to rugby league games for free, and I get to talk about the best game in the world and the best athletes in the world, and I get a little bit of money in my back pocket for doing so. I mean, it's just brilliant for me. And then I get to go to Featherstone and work with some top class players and people.
Was your connection with
game of all.
Adrian Dunham?
Yeah, still goes strong.
Yeah,
no, I don't know whether that probably
I know
helped.
He's at TalkSport.
Probably helped. Myself and Mark Wilson do a lot of it. Craig Murdoch, fantastic when Mark's with Sky and helps out when I can't make it. He summarises. So we have a really good little triangle of us that do it there, and I think Kyler Moore goes on now and again.
Yeah.
So I just love rugby league, and I'll always love it. I went home last night, as I said, and sat at my laptop effing and blanding at the laptop after yesterday.
I can imagine.
And my missus said to me on the way home, she rang me and she went, "You sound really bad, Paul." And I went, "I'm really upset. I'm frustrated by the result, and I need to find a way of solving it and get to the bottom of it. That's what I do." And the moment I stop caring about stuff like that is the moment I'll quit. I'll just stop doing it. So, yeah, whilst I'm caring, I'm still in the game.
Good.
So obviously you spoke about the fact that you love rugby league and it's the best game in the world. And you've probably answered this question many, many times before, but what was the main factor that got you into rugby and where did your journey start and where did you go?
So I used to play football as a kid for Barham Boys Club. I don't know whether people remember that.
I used to play for Barham as well,
So I played football at Barham and I stayed overnight at my grandparents' one night, my nan's, with my cousin, Sam. Sam was a player at Old Boys Club and he took me over the road to Eastmount on Long Hill now, and I went to Eastmount and I did one session and loved it, and I ended up joining Old Boys Club from that and quitting the football. So that's how I got involved in the sport at 8 years of age. Spent 8 years at Old Boys Club, spent 10 years at LFC, spent 3 years at OKR, 6 months at Wakefield, and then got back into it part-time. So my journey started with an overnight stay where I wasn't supposed to stay overnight, and I just fell into it, if you like. But once I was into it, I was into it. My dad used to play amateur rugby league. He was very good, I'm told. I'm a bit too young to remember, but he was a very good amateur player. Lots of respect around the town from people that I speak to, all professionals from LFC. So, it's given me everything. It's given me absolutely everything I've got in life. All my knowledge, everything I do, everything I think about is consumed by what I've learned in rugby league. So, it's given me everything, and I owe a bit back, I think.
Was that under Dave Hall at Old Boys? Did you play under
No, I started under a guy called Joe Tripp, who's sadly passed now. My dad ended up coaching at some point, and Steve Reed was an old coach of mine. Jim Brown, the old Jim, the legend that is Jim Brown, MBE, who refuse to travel to to Buckingham Palace to get his MBE. He said she can send it up to me, the Queen. So yeah, I was at his funeral a couple of years ago. So yeah, and I've got such people like Johnny Whiteley, who was a member there. Lee Jackson was a member there. Marcus Vasilakopoulos, who's over in America now, who used to play at Leeds Rhinos. So they've got lots of players that come through the system at Hull FC that have gone on to be very, very good. At Hull Boys Club that have gone on to be very good rugby league players.
Yeah, I know Craig Old.
And boxers and karate. They did a lot at the club.
I love hearing how people's journey in the sport started.
Yeah. Well, that's why I thought,
by accident,
we've asked about the now. Yeah. We've asked about the now, so I thought, why not take it right back and go with that?
Why not? So we're pushing on for time now, so we're going to jump into Listeners' Lounge, and we'll just do the one question this week. It was a question that was asked a few weeks ago by Ben, and it is, well, he said he's nicked it off another pod and another sport. So, what is the best individual performance you've seen from a rugby league player live? And I'm going to add to this, what is the best team performance you've seen live as well?
No one wanted to jump forward then, did they?
No.
I'll go.
I mean,
I've got my team. Think I'm kissing his ass on one of them. So.
You're going to say the same one as me, I think. You'll say the semi-final from 2005.
That.
Yeah, that's the greatest. That's the greatest team performance I was ever involved in.
I'm glad I was sober watching that as well.
Yeah, I'm glad I was sober and all.
I'm glad you was as well.
Yeah, so that was the greatest one I ever played in against another team. That was the greatest ever game plan. The way the game planned and panned out. Yeah, so that was the greatest one I ever was involved in.
It looked like, from the outside looking in,
it was just
you
like
lads had
poetry
no
in motion.
You was going to win that game.
It was as good and as effective and as plain sailing as a game plan could go for us in terms of the game plan. We conceded a try, I think, just after half-time, which didn't derail us when everyone expected it to, and then we went on to win comfortably. But, yeah, that was easily the best team performance I was involved in.
Against that Saints team as well.
Yeah, they got their own back the following season. They lost 4 games all year, one of them to us, and then they hammered us in the...
playoff semi-final and the grand final.
They beat us in the grand final, yeah.
And I'll chuck my player performance. It was Trent Barrett against Hull FC in the 2007 playoffs when they come over to us. The week before, they had that massive comeback against Bradford, and he come over, and I maybe have seen better individual performances, but that one sticks out in my mind. He was faultless that day. Absolutely amazing. So them are two.
When you sent us the question, you had to think about the one you said you've seen live, and you think for me, like 32 years watching Rovers, and we've had some ups and downs, but I have seen better performances from other teams in all the years in Super League, and I've tried to answer it honestly. So from a team performance, jokingly, FC 6, Rovers 42 at the KC 2007.
Yeah, that's my second one.
Again, I know that sounds a bit like cushy here and I'm doing it, but that was such an unbelievable day for me as a Rovers fan. It actually wasn't the best team performance. It actually was Grand Final 2015, Leeds versus Wigan. That Leeds team was somewhat unbelievable, right? But from pure emotion, a little bit blinded, my red and white specs on, that game lives in my head rent-free in such a positive way. That was the start of my journey for Rovers becoming what they are now. From all the things we've spoke about over all the years and the barely any fans there and the bad weather and travelling to the little clubs up and down the country and 1-0 defeats and all that stuff that's happened. That there, we was a team then. And that was like, actually, oh my God, what are we watching here? We are going to do something here. We might actually be able to stay in the Super League. We might actually become a team that's going to maybe get up to what we just witnessed 2 years previous in you guys winning the Challenge Cup that we never dreamed of before that. So, yeah, I know you're on. I know she's in that game.
That's the second best team performance I was involved in terms of throughout my career. That performance and the game plan from the boss then in Justin Morgan and the way we went at Willie Mano and then went away from him once we'd gassed him. It was just one of them days where we felt comfortable in the way that we was playing, even though we were second bottom. And if we don't win that game, we go to the last game before we may well be relegated. So, yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, I think the emotion side on it, yeah, amazing one for me. From a player point of view, I'll just throw in quickly, from an actual individual, I found it hard to overlook the Rob Burrows' performance in 2011 Grand Final. Obviously, we have the famous try.
Ducking and weaving.
But that isn't actually what won the game. He was immense all night. And obviously, as sad as it is with him passed on everything, and it hasn't changed his legacy, it just keeps growing. But back then, he was voted by 37 of the journalists.
Everyone.
Everyone was man of the match. You are winning that. And I was there in person, and at the time, it was a proper David and Goliath, not from the team's point of view, but what he did and just stood up and went, you know, he'd actually had a bit of a bad season as well. He'd lost his role in the starting of that team. He was starting on the bench. He was doing what we keep talking about Jez Litton now. You know, he's the impact player. Is he happy with it? Does he mind that he don't get the 80 minutes? He proved throughout that season that he could still be that professional. And on that day, the fact that everyone voted for him, the performance he put in, from the tries he helped set up, from, you know, the amazing solo effort, from the try that everybody knows is world famous now. But that was probably the greatest individual performance for a player I saw in person.
I wasn't there for that. I wasn't there for the game, so I can't say that I've seen that one live.
Not in person.
No.
I've got a team performance, but there's no real individual performances that are standing out.
Yeah.
The team one for me, I've only seen a couple of games that don't involve Rovers, so this one doesn't actually sort of bring them any closer. But for me, it was the time we were in the Championship, or the Northern Ford Premiership, or whatever it was at the time, and we played Warrington in the Cup, and we beat them 40-36 at home, and that to me just epitomised what a team performance should and could be, because nobody gave us a chance to win that game. I don't know if you remember it, Josh, but you know, we weren't given a chance, and Warrington was scoring what I said at the time were classic Super League tries. They'll make a break, and then they'll have a man supporting on the inside, and they'll go under sticks, which now obviously we're sort of up in the upper echelons of the game, and you look around and you see it in all walks of the game. But just to have the character just to keep going at Warrington and keep going and pushing them, and I think Warrington were going rather well that season as well, so to be able to come away with that, and the buzz on the evening was just absolutely unbelievable. So that for me is my best team performance.
Same as you. I think picking out a player is probably one of the most difficult things for me to do. So I'm going to pass on that question because I have literally the worst memory ever. But one game that does always stick in my head, aside from being 20 odd points down and, you know, bringing that back at Craven Park, is Wyre in the 2013 semi-final. Hull against Wyre in the 2013 semi-final.
That was at the Huddersfield, wasn't it? Again, yeah.
That for me, I mean, 2005. I was there in 2005 for the Saints one, but I was 15. It's probably having my first ever beer. Don't really remember much about it. But that one stuck out for me, and it wasn't just the performance as well. It's probably the first time in a long time, at least, that we'd got me going at a game. I know we had some good performances, but do you know, like, I'm trying to put it into words. It's every now and again you go to a game and you walk away and it just sticks in your head forever, and it's, you know, you get the 20 points down and bringing it back. Them type of games, they'll never leave my mind. That game will never leave my mind. Seeing the players celebrate where they celebrated, I can remember where I was, where the players were celebrating, and it's that game for me just sticks in my head. Might not have been the best team performance ever. Probably wasn't as good as 2005 semi-final, but I can't off the top of my head remember that. But yeah, that probably one for me.
My second favourite was turning Castleford over in the Northern Rail final.
I was at that game.
We weren't expected to win, and when Barr and Ford went the full length, I just had tears streaming down.
I was
pointing at the Rovers fans because we were all down that side.
I went with all my mates to that game because I was playing at Hull, but because it was all Rovers and we all went to Blackpool for a night out afterwards, so I ended up going to that game and supporting Hull KR from stands as well. I copped some stick for that.
I bet you did, yeah.
It was an unreal game. That was great.
Can I ask, who's the best player you've played with and against? If anyone jumps out.
You know, the individual performance you said about earlier, there's a couple of them that stand out, but they're obviously playing against them. Andy Farrell never had a bad game. He was the best player I ever played against, Andy Farrell. So when he played us at the Boulevard one year and he destroyed Hull FC to the point where, as a young kid, and it was the toughest lesson I ever learnt from Jason Smith, who was the best player I played with. I was on the
Yes.
right side of the field, he was on the left, and he kept destroying me, Andy Farrell. And in the end, it got to the point where Jason went, "You can F off over there." And he shoved me to the other side of the field because he was just destroying me. So, one, it made me sit up and take notice. If I want to be any good and I want to be in the team, I've got to get better. One. And two, just how good is Andy Farrell?
Yeah.
Just how good is Andy Farrell?
I don't think he's respected enough.
He's not given enough credit. He could run the ball tough and play tough. He could play ball player in the middle and pass the ball. He could kick the ball and kick off a tee. He did everything for Wigan, and he was tough as anything when you went at him. He ran over me once when I was a kid, and he hit me with both bumpers up, and I fell on my back, and I felt my ribs crunch, and he popped my rib cartilage, and it was absolute agony. And he just got up over me, standing all over me, and played the football, and I was just like, "Oh man, this is first grade. I want to go back. I want to go back play amateur.
I want to drop that down.
I want to go back to the Colts.
Yeah,
The only thing I'm pleased with Farrell, he's a little bit under-respected in league circles.
yeah. He's
And
not in Union.
Thankfully for him and family and everyone involved with him, in Union, he's so well respected. And what he's been able to do with the Ireland team, and I'm not going to bang on about Union for ages, but now to be given the British Irish Lions job, it
huge.
just goes to show. So
Shows you, doesn't it?
thankfully, he is well respected in rugby overall.
Do you think that sort of lack of respect he gets in league is because he left and went to Union?
I don't know. There's a story about him, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but I dare say it's true. He went and played for Saracens, didn't he, and signed a 3-year contract or 2-year. He played it, or 3-year. He played his first year and injured for his second, and offered to play his third year for free. So you think about the integrity of a man, and the type of bloke he is. Listen, if he says you're going into battle, and I spoke to Joel Tompkins at Wigan. Remember the day I said I had at Wigan? Joel was there. Joel played with him at England, or played for him when he was head coach at Saracens. And he said from one season to the other, he changed the elements of the game. We're going to attack round the rucks this year, and then we're going to attack a little bit wider from rucks. He said, if he'd have told us we was attacking on the next field, we'd have all run to the next field. He said, that's whatever he said, we did. And I think he's so well respected in Union now, you're right. But as far as rugby league people concerned, I don't know whether that's the reason why he's probably not as well respected. But for me, he's a giant of our sport, rugby league and Union.
Do you think it could be possibly to do with like the media, like because when he was playing, there wasn't social media as such. There wasn't replays everywhere. There was very, very rare live television games. Whereas now
TikTok.
It's an interesting one. Is that why he's not as well respected? You mean
maybe because
there's not as much
people
coverage
don't
of him?
realise
How good he was.
Yeah, what he did whilst he was playing, and whereas obviously everybody can see what he's done with the Irish side, and now he's been given the Lions job.
Possibly.
So is that a factor? Maybe I don't know,
Possibly.
Yeah, it's fair.
Well, players are certainly more well known nowadays, aren't they? I mean, we just spoke about Instagram and a scan on Instagram of Mikey Lewis before we came on.
Yeah.
And it was a scan of his new baby, not a scan of his ankle or his knee, whatever we needed.
Just to get all the
Yeah.
Rovers fans
So,
panic.
yeah.
Oh, there's a scam.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So yeah.
I think we should move on. Predictions.
Yep.
This is
Predictions for this weekend.
for this week's
Go for it.
games.
Tell
yeah.
me what they are.
So first game on Thursday night, we have Hull KR versus Salford at Craven Park. I've gone for Rovers.
I have gone KR. It's tough this week with everything going on, but I'm not going to not back us at home, so I'm going KR.
Yeah, I think KR at home. I think the home advantage will tell. And he's got a week to prepare his team with whoever's playing in the half and with whoever isn't. So I back Hull KR.
Plus, we've had an extra 2 days rest over Salford as well.
I've gone Rovers. You always beat Salford at home.
Yeah.
You always do.
There's that bogey team, isn't there?
I'm going to go with Salford purely because I'm going to the game and it's what I want.
So there's no logic behind
You know
it,
what?
it's
That's a
just-
perfect answer to me.
Yeah, no logic whatsoever, and I might lose points on.
You know
in
what?
the league,
You know
but-
what the best thing is with that? It'll probably happen now.
I hope.
No, you're the only one, and you only want it for that reason. And there's something written in the stars.
Yeah. Well, I said to Dean, I said,
getting
don't
filled in,
jinx
aren't
it. Don't be like, he's saying we always beat Salford at home. I think it was 40-0 in the cup last season, wasn't it? And you just know something's going to happen this season.
something could happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a lift to the game, but you might not get a lift back, depending on the outcome.
He'll be swimming back.
Be in the river all going on, won't he?
We'll see him coming up there shortly. Anyways, moving on. Friday night, Huddersfield versus Hull FC over at the John Smiths, as I like to call it. I've gone for Hull, actually. I think
I've backed all this week. I think you'll do Huddersfield.
do it.
I think Huddersfield will win, and the reason being, I think they've been decent in the first 2 games. And Hull have still got question marks for me. And I want Hull to go there and win. Please don't think that I'm just bagging Hull FC here, because I'm not. Huddersfield haven't been as bad as I thought they would be, having beaten them in the friendly game at Featherstone when we played them. I think they've got a little bit better, and I think they've been a little bit unlucky. What may go against them is the fact that they've got no halves at the minute either.
2 very tough games.
But George Flanagan came in last week. A friend of mine, his son is obviously George Flanagan Jr. And was sensational. So I think home advantage for them may tell. And the fact Hull are still searching for answers with a few injuries.
I also want Hull to win, but I think Huddersfield will. I think it'll be close.
See, that's big, isn't it, when you support a team and you go against your team? I think that's a sensible answer.
I don't mean listen to this podcast.
Doesn't make no difference.
Because the amount of money I won on FC losing last season.
But Dean's worried about the punishment you're doing for losing this last year, right? And he's thinking super sensible and going, I don't want that.
Yeah. Dean's playing the long game.
If you go with the bookies, I think Hull FC will be the underdogs going into the game anyway. So
I'm going Hull, and it's more of a hope
because you want it.
Not just because I want it. Obviously, I do want it, but this for me, this game. I'm not saying it's going to define Cartwright or anything like that, but for him to live up to what we expect, for him to be able to get into those kids' heads and think, right, you've just been hammered. You need to react to this now.
Give you an idea of where you're at.
Fair point. Yeah, it will.
Massively.
Yeah, it will.
It'll give us a really good understanding of what the mentality of the club's like now. And I'm gonna. It's a hope and a prayer. But yeah, I'm going for a really close Hull victory.
You won the game that we didn't expect you to win, the Catalan away. Not because Catalan ever start the season well, but because we didn't know what you was this year, and you had to travel out there for the opening game. Then you've lost the game everyone knew you'd lose, Wigan, because of who Wigan are. So this is the type of games that if you're going to do better this year, you need to see something. And I genuinely think you will be better this year. And where your 5, 6, 7 wins will come from is your Huddersfields, perhaps your Castlefords or your Wakeys if they have an off day. So that's where I think you'll do it.
I think it is a defining game for the club in terms of the heavy loss last week against a team which you should heavily lose against. And then you come up against a team which should be 50-50. Maybe not 50-50, maybe a little bit more in their favour according to bookies. But this will be a real indication of how far the club's come under Cartwright.
Cartwright's already said this week, he's labelled it as must-win.
Well, so that straight away he's throwing pressure on his players and he wants them to embrace that pressure.
Yeah.
I think that's a real good statement.
Good.
Yeah. Also on Friday night, we have Lee against Catalans over at the LSV. I've gone for Lee.
I've gone for Lee.
Yeah, Lee.
Yeah, Lee for me.
Lee for me.
Ooh, across the board. Moving on to Saturday, we have Wakefield versus St Helens at Wakefield. I've gone for St Helens.
Saints.
Yeah, Saints just. I don't think there'll be much in it.
Nope, Saints for me.
Same.
And then moving on to Saturday night, 9:30, Wigan versus Warrington.
Yeah, Wigan. Don't matter who Wigan are playing for me.
I've gone for Wigan, to be fair.
I actually put Warrington this morning, right? And then I thought about it. I've changed my mind.
Take your first answer, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, and it is Wigan. Hey, it is Wigan because I changed it before I come in. Not only will they travel better, right? I'm just sure they will, but they know how to play big games better than anybody else. And this is not me slating Warrington saying they can't get over the line. But if anybody's professional enough with the way they are, who can travel over to the US and win a game and put on a show, it is Wigan. It's simple as that for me.
Plus, they've not had the disruption of the coach not knowing if he's going to be there or not, which is obviously going to put a spanner in the works in terms of the preparation and things like that. So, plus, I think if Wigan had an extra day's recovery, was it the same?
Something like.
Same.
Yeah, I've gone Wigan.
So you've got Wigan by 7 on here, and I think we're going to tonk them.
Do you really?
Yeah, I really do.
The only thing that I would go against that with is, and maybe Warrington can win the game, is based off the fact that the majority of NRL fans there will support Warrington because of Sam. Yeah. So that could count in Warrington's favour. And if Sam does get there, then all of a sudden he's there to showcase his club as well. He won't want a tonking from Wigan in front of all his NRL mates.
I know he won't want one, but
it's a fair assumption that whoever plays Wigan's going to get tonked.
Yeah, just the way that they performed last week, and I know there's people watching, there's Rovers fans watching saying, yeah, but it's only Hull. there's just something about that Wigan performance last week that just makes me think if they can click that good that early in the season, Warrington, and I said it game one, for me, they don't really start the seasons all that well. I really do. I think Wigan by maybe not 40 odd points, but a good 20, 25, 30 points.
You mentioned
maybe.
about the fans, but from what I've seen on the, like the NRL forums and things like that, a lot of their fans don't follow the Super League. So are they going to go in early for what is essentially a curtain raiser?
I think if you're travelling all that way, yes, you will, because you're talking Australians travelling now and New Zealanders. You're not talking about the Americans you're trying to get through the gate. They're not going to turn up and not watch that. It's not like when I hate to say it, but when you go to Wembley, does everyone always stick around and watch both games? And watch the 1895 Cup as well. No, it doesn't happen, right? But if you travel all the way to America and you're going to watch Rugby League, you are probably going to watch the games that are on and not go in late. And I think that maybe undermines just how much respect there is for Sam Burgess from a lot of NRL fans, regardless of the club they supported.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
No.
There's lots of other things to do.
Lots of other things to do, yeah. That was my thought process.
I don't think I would, as an NRL fan, because you can kind of think how they think. They have that little bit of disrespect, I think, for the Super League.
Massively. It's not a little bit.
I don't
Well,
think
but if they do go in there, they're going to see the best club team in the world, aren't they? In Wigan, who are still the World Club champions.
But
so there's an element of what are Wigan all about.
There's a lot of NRL fans, though, that still question the
result in that. Yeah,
game,
of course they do. Of course
to
they
be
do.
fair, even I question that.
Rightly so, yeah. I mean, I wanted Wigan to win with them being the English side, but when it's done in the manner that it was done, where for me, what was a blatant try for Penrith was ruled out, and a very, very questionable one for Wigan was given, and the referee is from Wigan.
Funny we're talking about that a year ago today.
Wow. Oh, really?
Wow.
But yeah, the referee was from Wigan, so for me that.
Yeah, we'll see. I think Wigan will win.
It goes back to like the Ben Failer, Ian. What's his name? The one from Leeds, Silverwood.
Richard Silverwood. Sorry, not Ian. I was thinking of Ian Smith. Like their ref games from their teams that are from their area, but then later on weren't allowed. So it's changed.
Why has it changed back to them now being allowed? But anyways, I digress. And the final game of the weekend on Sunday afternoon is Leeds and Castleford at Headingley. I've gone for Leeds, just on virtue of it being at Headingley.
Leeds.
I fancy Leeds as well.
Yeah.
I've gone Leeds, but I do think it'll be the game of the weekend.
Oh yeah, it'll be close.
I think Castleford, you're going to see a bit like all have been the last few years. A good performance, but they're good and bad are going to be very, very up and down, very different.
The thing is, I spoke about it last week. With Maguire having that Rovers connection, he will have got them so fired up for that first game that as it took a little bit out of them for the coming weeks, if you will.
I do fancy Leeds, but I think Castle put up a good fight this weekend.
Put up a better showing than they did last week.
Yeah.
Leeds for me as well, no question.
I do think Cass are probably more reminiscent, or will be reminiscent this year, of London last year, rather than how you guys were. You was having all your troubles, falling apart at times and not turning up on the day. London had some heavy defeats, but boy did they play for each other every game. And Cass have that look. And yes, maybe it was just the Maguire connection when they played us in the opening round, I get that. But forgetting last week, I know it's early, I can see them having a lot closer ones or just losing. Yeah. And I think you're right, I think it could be the game of the round.
I think that comes down to the coach, though, because Mike Eccles, what he did with what he had available was...
Let me tell you, he's still doing it. I found out yesterday.
Obviously, he's still there. But I didn't mean to sort of lead on to that.
That's all right.
What he did,
that sour note.
What he did with what he had.
I'll go get back to work and try and find out what went wrong.
Sorry, Featherstone fans.
Well, anyway, on that note, that's it. Done. A good episode, I think. Thank
you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. If you need me at any time, I'm always around. No problem.
Make sure Amy gets paid for the drink.
Yeah, no problem. And the rest of them.
She will. She's fine.
Thank you.
But yeah, so sponsored this week by Walton & Co. And obviously presented at Tribal. Thanks very much. Oh, yeah. I forgot.
How? How can you forget?
It's because he's pressuring me with what he's written there. Sorry. See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
Is he joining in?
Do you want to do one? See you, bye.
See you, bye.